I prepared some script with some demo tables. Okay, so here I'm creating some EMP table. Okay, so employee table to store the employee information. I am creating some employee table here. Okay, so here another table is department table to store like for each and every employee they have their department information as well. Okay, so in every department there have a lot of employees. So like if you want to maintain the information like who is the parent, who is the child. Okay, so one parent may have the multiple childs. So one child may have, so he will have only one parent. So parent with the child relation will have the like a one to many relationship. So one parent may have the multiple childs. Okay, so every child, so one child may have only one. Pain. So before discussing about these things, okay, so we need to know relations. Okay, so like okay, so like this is like a member. Okay, so I'm in this place. So these people are the childs. These are like a parents. Okay, so childs we have here. Okay, here we have the parents information. So if you see the relation between like a child to the parent, okay, child to the parent, it will be one-to-one relationship. Okay, this will be one-to-one relationship. To one, meaning, so one child does not have the multiple parents. So you may see like one parent may have the multiple childs. So if you see the return, the relation here, like so reverse verse. Okay, so one to many relations. So if you see like a parent to child, you will see the one to many relationship. One to many relationship. The same relation we are going to build here in our system. So if you want to build you and your father, so if you want to link the you and your father, so we need some concepts here in the Oracle. Okay, so we are maintaining the So parent information separate and child information separate. Okay, so let's create with the parent information. Okay, so I'm creating some table like a create table parent to store the parent information. So parent will have the ID number, and then to store the name, we'll use the varchar2 data type. So now we are not using the character data type. So we know it is wasting the memory. So it's a dynamic memory, right? So we'll use the varchar2 data type. Then date of birth. Okay. So we are maintaining this information. Only 3 columns. Now I created this parent table. Now so you will come to this place. Actually, I don't know like where I need to. I'm not seeing the option to this here. Okay, so I'm creating the table. I created with the parent table. Okay, so now I'm inserting the data into this table. Insert into parent. Okay, so I'm inserting like a 1, and so A is my parent name, data birth. Okay, so data birth will be 01 20. Okay, so I'm inserting some parent information here. So 1, 1, 2, 2, A, B, C is the names. And I'm mentioning like a 1010 is one of members, so another number like a 2000. Now I'm inserting these 3 parent information. Okay, now we inserted this 3 parent information. Okay, so while inserting the parent information, so I forget to add the gender option here. Okay, now I'm dropping the table, or we can able to alter the table as well. Okay, now alter table parent. Okay, to add the column, we'll use the add in there. Okay, so we'll make it as a char. So if you mention like char, it will take the 1 byte of the size, because it's the minimum size is char, default size is the minimum size. Okay, so I created here, so I altered. Now I need to update the information in this place. Parent set gender equal to m. Okay, so I'm updating these values as a male. Okay, so now select star from parent, not from the EMP. Okay. Select star from parent. Now we have this parent information here, right? So after we have like a 3 columns earlier, we inserted the 3 column values, and later you added the another gender column, you updated the values for this. Okay. Now if I want to insert this information in this place, okay, so the client is asked to, while taking the parent information, so you need to be aware of, so who is that, like parent is the mother or father. So I need to know, so the parent is the mother or father. So if someone like dies the parent like father, so those people will mention the mother name. So I need to be aware of very clear information I need to capture. So the gender must and should be captured. If I know like a female, so like is the mother. If it is the M, so I can treat like as a father. Okay. So I need to restrict. So while inserting the data into this table, I need to restrict. So if you are trying to provide, like if you are trying to avoid that gender column value, I need that need to be intimate me. So like so gender column is gender column does not allowing the null values. You must specify the value for that. So we need to provide in that way. So now you are inserting the value here. So it is getting the error like not enough values. Due to this column IDs you need to mention. So the table is having like 4 columns. Now you are trying to provide like only three values for that. So due to that you are getting the error. I'm mentioning the column list and I'm inserting the value into this. So it is not restricting you. See here, we are not inserting any value for this gender column. The system need to be restrict. Okay, so to do that task, so we have the constraints. Constraints is the concept. Constraints. So it's used to implement the rules on the table. So we can implement our own rules on the data. So data and so data is data you will capture and store into the table. Okay, so if you want to put the rules on the table, so data, so automatically you are putting on the table. So we are saying like a constraint is used to implement the rules on data. Meaning, so the data is capturing in the table. So you are putting the rules on the table. Okay, simple definition is constraint is used to implement the rules on the table or data. Okay, now how can we implement that rule? Okay, so while deriving the table, okay, so now I am dropping this table. Okay, now I am dropping this table and redesigning with the constraints. Drop. Now the table has been dropped. Now I'm adding this column into the same list. Gender, so added with the 4 columns. Okay, so while adding of the columns, if you want to put the rules for gender column, that rule need to be maintained the besides of the column. So the rule is not null. Not null. So for this column, you need to allow the, you need to must and should, you need to allow the value. So ఈ కాలంలో ఎప్పుడైతే నువ్వు వాల్యూ ఇన్సర్ట్ చేస్తావో it check that the value is present or not. If it is present, it gives the true for this not null. Then it allows. See, now I am creating some not null value here by mentioning the not null. So now I put it the rule for a gender column with the not null. Okay, so now the same operation I am trying to do here now. So like M value I am providing like a F. Third value I am providing null. I'm not providing any value. So null meaning it is an undefined value. So it's a blank. We don't have any space also. Null is a undefined value. Okay, so if you want to see that, so select null from dual. Okay, it is displaying the null. Okay, I'm taking this value and printing into the double quotes. It is not taking any space. It is not printing anything in this place. See here, if I'm mentioning like a select one from dual, it is displaying one here. Okay, now I'm copying this and pasting in this place. It is printing the value. So meaning, so it is taking some space. Null, it is not taking any space. Okay, it's a blank value. Okay, now I'm trying to insert the value in the parent table. So I provided like all the field values. It is allowing to insert. And the second record also I'm allowing. So it is allowing to insert because I provided the gender column as a F. Okay, now I am inserting with a null. I'm not providing any value for a gender for the third record. See here, cannot insert null into. Okay, so batch 11 is the username. Parent is your table name. So gender is your column name. So in the parent table for gender column, you cannot able to insert the null values. Okay, so if you want to restrict these type of things, this is your rule. You are putting your rule on your table. Okay, this is one type of rule which is used to restrict the null values for column. Okay, so we have another rules like this. Now we have this table, right? Now while providing of any information here, now see here, now I am inserting the value with the 3 columns and gender. So I'm providing the value with the gender. I'm providing the value either F. Okay, so here I'm inserting with the same parent ID. See here, so 1, 2, 3, 3 different IDs. There is no problem here. Okay, while inserting like fourth parent ID. Now I forget like what is that like a previous parent ID. I forget that by mistakenly I have provided the same parent ID for another parent. Now I am inserting with this. It is not restricting this. So you need to restrict the parent IDs, whether the parent is having already or not. You need to verify. If it is already there, so you are inserting the duplicates that need to be intimate you. So we cannot insert the null values or duplicate values into this. Okay, so that need to be intimate. So now again I'm dropping this table. Okay, now I'm putting the rule. So for which column I need to derive? ID column. Okay, so I need to put that rule beside to that column like a iniq. So while inserting the value into ID column, it check all the values are iniq or not. Okay, so it check like before inserting any value into the table, so the value is already present or not. If value is already present, it will give the duplicate value here. Cannot insert the duplicate into this. Okay, now I drop this table and I'm created again and I'm inserting the value 1 if. So for gender column, I am inserting the value here as a M. Because if I haven't provided that, you will get the null constraint error. See here, I'm providing null. And the for third record, see it is getting the cannot insert the null value for gender column. Okay. Now I'm providing the value to rectify that error with the parent ID 3. Okay. Now I'm inserting the value into this. Now the parent ID 3 has been inserted. Okay. Now I am trying to insert another record with the 3. Okay. All the required columns has been provided here. So I'm changing the name as D. Okay. I change as a 2008 Here we have like a 2000. Okay. Now I am inserting the values here. See here, you are getting the error now. InEQ constraint violated. So you are doing data violation here. So I put in some rules. You are breaking that rules. You are doing violation of my rules. So I put the rule like a, so it need to be InEQ. The value need to be InEQ. Now you are inserting the duplicate values. So it is giving the error. Okay. So if you want to restrict the duplicate values, we'll go with the InEQ constraint. Okay. So now we have this column, right? I'm trying to insert the null values for this. So I'm saying like it need to be InEQ. Okay. It need to be InEQ. Now I'm inserting with the null. Null. I'm trying to insert without parent ID. I'm inserting some parent information here. It is allowing. Okay. Null is also allowing in the InEQ constraint. Okay. So then I'm trying to insert with another like another parent information like E. Okay. So John is a male. Okay. I'm inserting like another parent information here with a null again. Okay. So I inserted like 3 here. And again, I am trying to insert with 3. You are getting the InEQ constraint violation. Now I am inserting with null again with a different name. It is trying to insert. Okay. Again with the duplicate record I am inserting here. D already inserted, right? D with the 10th null. The same record again I am inserting here. So the null value is inserting like any number of times. Any number of times. So if you want to know the reason, see, you inserted this type of information in this place. Okay. See here, the ID null. We have all are null, common value. So you are looking like I say, all the nulls are same. If you see the data here, okay, all are same. Okay, so if you want to know about the null values, okay, about the null values. Okay, so you know, like in mathematics, we have logical operators. Okay, logical operators are pi infinity. So you know, right? So pi value is pi equal to 22/7. We'll get like a 3.14. This is pi value, correct? Now, you know, like infinity. So we cannot able to see that symbol in this place. Treat like I say, so dollar symbol or ampersand symbol is the infinity. Okay. D equal to infinity. Okay. A equal to A. B equal to B. Okay. Now you assign the value like A equal to 1. So B equal to 1. So now you are comparing with the A equal to B. Okay. So now we have provided the value in this way. Okay. Pi equal to 3 to, so 22/7. So now if you mention like a pi equal to pi. Okay. Pi equal to pi is true. Okay. So now A equal to A. So whether A is having the same value like A equal to 1. So another A is also having the same value. So 1 equal to 1 true. Okay. Now it is also true. Equal to B. This is also true. Now you assign the value A equal to 1, B equal to 1. Now you are comparing with the A equal to B. Now we have A is having 1, B is also having the 1. So now this will give the true. Correct? These operations has been Understand, right? There is no confusion here, right? To understand these expressions. Okay, now I'm comparing with infinity equal to infinity. So infinity is the meaning you cannot able to measure any value. So whatever the things you are not able to measure, that we can call it as an infinitive. Correct? Infinity. So you cannot able to compare one any value. So you have like another unmeasured value. You cannot able to compare two unmeasured values as the same. Because if you know like what is the size of that measurement of object, if you know that size, so you can able to compare that with another object. Take the size of that another component and compare with two component size and weight and everything. So you cannot able to compare like you can. So ఇక్కడ ఏం చేయాలి? So if you want to find like both are the, so if you have like two persons, okay, ఆ two persons యొక్క weight same అని చెప్పి మీకు తెలియాలి. Okay, now we have third person here. So one member ని ఆయన లిఫ్ట్ చేయగలుగుతున్నారు అంటే he can able to weight that person's weight. Okay, so another person weight ని he cannot able to weight అన్నప్పుడు ఏం జరుగుతుంది? both are not equal. అవుతుందా? సో అలా ఇప్పుడు ఒక మెజర్మెంట్ లేని వాల్యూ ఇప్పుడు సో టేక్ ద స్కై. సో యూ కెనాట్ ఏబుల్ టు కంపేర్ లైక్ మెజర్ ద స్కై వాల్యూ, స్కై లెంత్ అండ్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ యూ కెనాట్ ఏబుల్ టు మెజర్. ఓకే, వన్ స్కై అంటే యుఎస్ లో ఉన్న స్కై ఇండియాలో ఉన్న స్కై రెండు ఈక్వల్ అని చెప్పి కంపేర్ చేయాలనుకో. సో ఆల్ ద స్కై ద హోల్ వరల్డ్ ఈజ్ సేమ్. కానీ నేను ఏమంటున్నా, అక్కడ ఉన్న స్కై వాల్యూని ఇక్కడ ఉన్న స్కై వాల్యూని కంపేర్ చేయడానికి చూస్తున్నాను. సో బోత్ ఆర్ యూ కెనాట్ ఏబుల్ టు మెజర్. సో బోత్ ఆర్ అన్ఈక్వల్. అర్థమవుతుందా? సో unmeasurable values you cannot able to compare. If you compare also it give the false. Okay, so now if you mention like a null is a unmeasurable value. So another null is also unmeasurable value. Sky equal to sky, false. Same way null equal to null is a give the false. Okay, got it? So the same way it is allowing to insert like any number of null values, because every null value is treated like as a different value. Okay, so this is about the InEQ constraint. Now I am dropping this constraint. Now my client is asked to maintain the duplicate values, so restrict the duplicate values and null values for the parent ID. While inserting any parent information into the parent table, I need to must and said I need to generate some parent ID for each and every parent. I cannot. So you don't want to hide your parent ID information. You must provide. If you are inserting any parent information, you need to be tag some ID. So tag చేసేటప్పుడు if it is the duplicates, InEQ constraint will violate. Now I need to restrict the null values as well for this column. So you already seen with to restrict the null values, we have not null constraint. Okay, not null constraint. Okay, so you can able to put the two rules on the same column. Okay, so you can able to put the two rules on the same table or for same column. Okay, so ఇక్కడ టూ రూల్స్ నువ్వు ఇన్సర్ట్ చేయాలి, ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేయాలి అంటే, సో వన్ రూల్ యూ నీడ్ టు బి, సో ద కన్స్ట్రైంట్స్ కెన్ బి డిజైన్డ్ అట్ two levels. You can able to mention the constraints at two types. Wait. So constraints, we can put like two types of constraints. We can implement in two ways. Constraints we can implement in two ways. So one is table level. What we did now, it's a column level. So whatever the constraint you are mentioning beside to the column, beside to the column. It's a column level. Okay, so what are the things if you want to make it as a table level? Okay, that constraint. So the column level constraints will be maintain that to the besides the column. Column. Okay, like gender. So data type and constraint type. Constraint type. You can mention this. Okay, so if you want to make it as a column level, like table level, then so while designing the table, like create table, anything like create table, table name, and a column one data type, column two data type, and size also we have size. Here also we have size. Okay, so that constraint need to be make it as a table level. So mention the all column names, column definitions meaning what is the data type of that, what is the size of that. We can call it as a column definition. So column definition here, data type and size, we can call it as a column definition of the particular column. Okay, so table definition and so what are the things you are mentioning like all the columns? This is your table definition. Table definition and how you created the table, that we can call it as a table definition. How you are creating inside the table as a column, that you can call it as a column definition. Okay, now we are defining at two levels. So the syntax is define all the columns and data types for each and every column. Take some extra comma and mention that constraint. Okay, so constraint, constraint, constraint name, constraint name. Okay, constraint name and constraint type. Constraint type. For which column I need to mention? So of which column? Into column one. So if I want to restrict for the column one, I need to implement for column one to mention like as a column one. Okay, so the same way we can able to mention in this as well. Gender in the column level also we can able to provide directly constraint type. Okay, so now, so if you want to make as say like this is your actual syntax. Constraint name and constraint type. You no need to mention this column name because you are giving this for gender column. The system can able to understand this is for this constraint is reserved for this gender column. So the constraint you can able to mention in these two ways. Okay, so you can able to mention directly beside to the constraint type. So now in the back end, so Oracle will implicitly create the syntax like in this way. So if you mention in this way, okay, Oracle will implicitly convert that into in the below way. Constraint name. The constraint name has been provided by the system Oracle, like a sys underscore some number. It will provide some number. Okay, sys underscore the constraint. If you forget to provide, like if you design the table like a constraint type in this way, directly you are mentioning like a constraint type. Okay, so the system can be provide that system defined name. System will provide automatically some name. Okay, then the constraint type will, however, you are maintaining this constraint type. The constraint type will automatically take that. So prior to this, whatever the things you have, it automatically generated by the system. Okay. So now see, we created the tables. It is storing into the user underscore tables. So you are creating the columns. That columns is in a table, right? So you are capturing table name and the columns in a user underscore tab underscore columns. Okay. Now we are creating the another type of object as a constraint. Okay. Now the constraints will be stored in user underscore constraints. User underscore constraint. Now we have like a user underscore constraints. See here, we created with the two constraints. For gender, it is, we mentioned like a not null. If you see like a gender column, we mentioned like a not null. So Oracle is backend, how it is returning, see here, search condition. So I'm searching like condition while inserting the data into the table. I'm searching that. So the gender is having the null or not. If the gender is having like a null, it give the constraint violation. If it is having the value, it compare with 2. Changes the akkada sky, ikkada sky. So I'm providing some default value like a sky equal to 0 and sky equal to 0. So 0 equal to 0, true. So to compare with undefined values, we'll use the is operator. So select star from parent. We have the parent information, right? Now I'm trying to fetch the ID equal to 1. Okay, we have like a 1, 2, 3 null. Correct? So now I'm trying to fetch like a 1. I'm getting the data. 2, also getting. 3, also getting. Now I'm mentioning like a null. I'm not getting the data because null is an undefined value. You cannot able to compare. I already said. So for that reason, so if you want to compare like unmeasurement values, Oracle has introduced. So here you see here the equal is the operator to compare the values. So equal is the comparison operator. The same way, if you want to compare the null values, we need to use the is operator. Is null. So I'm saying the column is having the value or not. So I need to check whether it is a duplicate or non-duplicate. I won't bother about it. So just simply I need to check like the column is having value or not. Is null. All the null values are getting here. So I'm mentioning like is not null. Is not null. Okay, so we'll use the is not null option. So is operator which is used to retrieve the data null values. So is the special operator to deal with the null values. So is a special operator which is used to fetch the data by using null values. Okay, if we want to deal with null values, we'll use the is operator. Okay, so then so we see like we can able to derive the constraint in 2 ways. One is the column level and another one is the table level. Okay, so now we'll make it as a 2 constraint on the same column. So one you can make it as a not null constraint. Okay, here you can mention like a constraint name gender. Okay, we are making as a gender. The char, make it as a not null. Okay, this is the column level, and you can able to mention like a column level and a table level. Okay, now I'm making as a constraint cns underscore iniq. Okay, iniq for id, iniq id. So constraint name. Constraint name, you can mention like a cons underscore ID underscore in Q. So the name should be understand like this constraint is you made for this so and so column, okay, so and so constraint type. So you if you know if you see like the constraint name, you need to understand the constraint has been designed for ID column as a NEQ constraint. So you need to make the constraint the names, naming conventions must and should be followed as per the company. సో ఆ కంపెనీలో వాళ్ళు ఎర్లియర్ మెంబర్స్ ఎలా యూజ్ చేస్తున్నారో మీరు కూడా అలానే రూల్స్ ఫాలో అవ్వాలి. ఓకే, కన్స్ట్రైంట్ నేమ్ అండ్ కన్స్ట్రైంట్ టైప్. In a queue, for which column I need to make that? Okay, for ID. So make in this way. Now I'm dropping the table. So we already made as a column level constraint for any queue. Now the constraint, all the constraints we will make it as a two level, either table level and column level. But you cannot able to derive the not null constraint as a table level. So not null constraint ఏదైతే ఉందో you cannot able to derive that not null constraint as a table level. So you can able to derive not null constraint on table level. So we have other constraints also, I will explain. But as of now we are seeing like a not null and a NQ constraint. So not null constraint you cannot able to derive at the table level. If you define like that, what will happen? See, constraint name as a not null, right? Now we are making as a not null NN. Now I'm mentioning like a not null of ID. Okay, see here it is giving the invalid identifier. Okay, so if you want to make it as a column level, switch that not null constraint to the column level, and so ID column here I am making as a not null constraint, and another constraint I am making as a table level. If you are working into some organization, you may having some insurance in your organization as an individual policy. Okay, your father has taken some family insurance, so you are also part of the same insurance. So నువ్వు అక్కడ పార్ట్నరే, ఇక్కడ కూడా పార్ట్నరే. So as a group, so how you are taking the two policies for individual member. As a group you are taking one policy, as another group you are, so as an individual you are taking one policy. So the same way it is allowing like a two constraint here. See here, now the table has been created. Check that in the user underscore constraints. Check in user underscore constraints. See here, the ID is not null because for this constraint we derived at a column level, we haven't provided the constraint name. Okay, so if we haven't provided the constraint name, the Oracle can create their own name, as I said here. See, the constraint is getting started with a sys underscore and providing some name with the numerical values. Okay, so see another condition. See, we provided some our own name for this place. Constraint name. See here, CNS underscore ID underscore unique. So I provided some name for my child. So that child name is displaying as is. So if you haven't provided any name for your child, the government can create some Aadhaar number and a name by default. So in the same way, we created two constraints. Now you can able to see the constraint name here. So as you know, like you are creating the table and you are using these objects, you will know for this constraint is reserved for the ID column. This constraint is reserved for the gender column. So if you are new to the some existing project, so now you join like an existing project with as a new employee into that particular project. So now you need to know this constraint is working for which column or which table. You can able to identify this is for the parent table. Okay, now I need to know this constraint is work for which column. Okay, so if you want to know that, you need to use select star from user underscore cons underscore columns. User underscore cons underscore columns is the meta object which will provide like a table name and a constraint name, and the constraint is work for which column. See, the parent table is ID is having two constraints now. So you can able to create multiple constraints for the same table, same column. So now we created with the two constraints. Okay, now do the same things what we performed till now. Okay, now we have the duplicate restrictions and null value restrictions both. Now I'm inserting the values. 1, it is inserting. 2, it is inserting. Now I'm inserting the null value. Cannot insert the null into this place. Okay, I'm setting the third record again with another. Now I'm setting with the same duplicate value with 3. Now the NQ constraint is violated. Okay, you may get those situations. So you need to restrict the duplicates and null values. So while inserting the data into the account master table, so if you open the bank account, the banker need to be generate some account number. Without generating the account number, he cannot able to insert the money. He cannot able to perform the transaction. So you must and should be maintained account number. Okay, so if you want to do these type of operations, so we are depending on two constraints here. Okay, we are depending on two constraints to simplify our work. So Oracle has introduced another constraint as a primary key. Okay, as a primary key. So primary key is a constraint which is used to restrict null values both. It restricts the duplicate values and null values for any column. Okay, now I'm changing to the, instead of maintaining the two constraints, I'm creating only one constraint for my column. Now I'm removing this. As I said, we can able to provide our own name for a constraint at column level, at table level, at any place. Okay, so now I'm saying like a constraint name is the PK, it's a primary key, correct? Now it's a primary key. Now I'm making as a primary key. See, constraint specification not allowed here. Okay, so as I said, like while providing the column level constraint, you no need to provide the column name. So as I said here, we no need to provide the column name in this place. So gender, data type, and the constraint type. Okay, so you no need to provide the constraint name for a column level because you are providing that constraint for that gender column only. So in this place, you are assigning that constraint for only ID column only. So you no need to mention specially this is for ID column. Now see this. Again, you are getting the errors in which place? In this place. Comma, we put some extra comma here. So because we derived some column table level constraint, right? So I cut this place. So I cut this string and I pasted in this place. Okay, so now I'm creating the table. Again, I'm getting the error.
The spelling.
Now the table has been created. Okay, so now I'm trying to insert the values into this inserting. Null values I'm inserting for the gender column. It is restricting that gender values you cannot able to insert. I'm inserting with the 3. Now I'm inserting with the null into this place. Now I'm inserting like a ID values as a null. So now it is firing like you cannot insert null into this ID column. Now I am inserting the duplicates for the same column. It is firing like a NEQ constraint violation. Okay, so if you want to restrict the both, we will use the primary key. Want to restrict the null values and the duplicate values, we'll go with the primary key constraint. If you want to restrict only null values, we'll go with the not null constraint. If you want to restrict only duplicates, we'll go with the NEQ constraint. We have 3 constraints for now. Okay. Now we see some differences. Okay. Now I'm creating like a table with primary key and not null primary key and as well as NEQ key. Okay. Now I'm removing these all constraint names. If people already know, you can able to derive the constraints with column level and table level. If you haven't provided the constraint name, it automatically creates. Now I'm making as a table. Okay, so parent with the PK as a primary key. Okay, now I'm making as a primary key table with the 1 column. It is allowing. Now I'm making as a NEQ key with the UK. NEQ. Now I created with the 2 tables. Okay, now I'm dropping these 2 tables and recreating with the 2 constraints of table. Drop table. I drop the table. Now I'm making as a another column with the ID. Okay. You cannot able to maintain the duplicate columns. So people already know that. So still I am creating with the duplicate columns. Now I'm creating with the duplicate columns. See here it is giving there a duplicate column name. In this place also it is giving the duplicate column name. Okay. Now I am renaming with the ID1. Here also ID1. Now I am creating with the primary key for 2 columns. So I'm putting the constraint, primary key constraint for 2 columns in 1 table.